just going to share a few thoughts on how I see God's goodness in life. And to do so, I'm going to share one of my favourite Bible stories found in the Gospels. And it's about a guy called Bartimaeus, who, despite the odds stacked against him, got to have a one-on-one personal connection and meeting with Jesus. What are these odds against Bartimaeus, you might ask? Well, Bartimaeus was commonly known as blind Bartimaeus, whose place in society was on the roadside begging. He was totally dependent on others to have compassion on his plight and give him food or money to help him meet the basic needs of his life. You can imagine the roadside is a hard place. It's unsafe, it's unfriendly, it's dirty and dusty, as traders and people, donkeys, dogs, animals all go up and down. Probably also it was a good place to beg with throngs of people, so Bartimaeus is now stuck between a rock and a hard place in choosing his lifestyle. When crowds pass by and are pushing around, they don't see anybody down at their feet, so the risk for Bartimaeus to get injured or trampled to death was really real for him. He lived his life as a vulnerable and unprotected person, and he would have been very powerless to change the narrative or the circumstances about himself. In this story, we are told a huge crowd were thronging around, excitement was high, and people were rushing past calling out, "Jesus of Nazareth is here!" Bartimaeus soon picked this up. He had great hearing, but he started to call out, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Well, the crowd were dismissive and verbally aggressive towards him and told him to shut up, seeing him as a nuisance, while they continued to shout and call, "Jesus of Nazareth is here." But Bartimaeus showed courage and refused to be intimidated and persisted shouting, "Son of David, have mercy on me." In the midst of all this noise and clamour and the crowd, Jesus heard Bartimaeus calling and told the men to bring him to him. Can you just imagine the response of the crowd as someone held Bartimaeus to his feet and they parted the way for him to walk towards Jesus? Silence must have descended as Bartimaeus sensed his way to Jesus. The one person Jesus wants to meet out of all this crowd is Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus, who is at the bottom of the social ladder, lives in the margins of society, has no position or standing, and yet he was the one person Jesus heard and wanted to meet. And guess what? Jesus opened a conversation with him, treating him with respect and kindness. He asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And by asking Bartimaeus this question, Jesus gave him the privilege for his voice to be heard and to make a request to him. Bartimaeus simply said, "I want to see Master." No fancy prayers or long-winded statements, a simple, "I want to see." Jesus granted him his sight, telling him his faith made him whole, and he gave Bartimaeus credit for his faith in front of this massive crowd. A dirty, blind beggar, outcast and seen as a public nuisance, knew the truth in his heart that Jesus of Nazareth, as the crowd were calling, was actually the Son of God who could heal him, and he knew he would answer his cry. People might look on you and me and judge us on the outside, maybe dismissing us, but God looks towards our hearts. This is such a precious story to me, showing me just the goodness of God, shows his loving care towards a man in desperate straits, and it encourages me greatly, as it tells me no matter who we are, what our need might look like, what our circumstances of life are, no matter how insignificant we might feel, what choices and mistakes we might have made, God sees us, he loves us, and willingly responds to our inner heart's cry. Maybe today as you listen to this, the season you are in has been very hard, very difficult, painful for you. I just want to really encourage you that the Jesus who answered Bartimaeus is still merciful, still loving, still forgiving. He's the Jesus that wants to engage with you and me. He's the Jesus that will be calling you to him. I know this because I am way below perfect. My life circumstances are reasonable, I absolutely get that. But actually my choices that I make are not always great, but Jesus has never failed me. If you don't know God, my prayer for you this Easter is that you will have the courage to call out to God. Ask him to open the eyes of your heart to who he is, and his greatest joy will be to listen and answer your cry.